was the Boone Humper getting beat. Didn't break 100 points. This is starting to become a trend. You know,
the Boone Humper, and we'll get into that in the power rankings. They've made them again.
Well, they lost the Morningwood 126.
It's a revolving door right now, and we're seeing most of their team that's been cut being added by other teams, and we'll see what that means. But trouble in Boone Humper land.
He might have to do a full facelift and start hunting something other than that.
Well, why don't we move on to our power rankings?
Yes,
now
this is what everybody loves. Yeah.
We're done with the week that was. We are now in the present time. Week 4 is upon us. Again, the waiver wire is hot. There's some key matchups this week.
Huge matchups.
And let's see where the teams stand in our power rankings heading in.
Okay.
Would you like to start with your bottom 5 again?
I will. Okay. This is, let me just rehash. Last, we had Morningwood at 5, Boone Humper at 4, Lunches for Wimps at 3, 2 Redonkulous, and 1 The King as the worst. But this week things have changed, and we're going to start off number 5, the Peaceful Warriors. I've had a chance to look over this team, look at his flaws, and there's just not a lot there for a long-term fight. I'm not a believer in Romo. Again, he's hurt again. Felix Jones has done nothing. And, he's got 2 Miami receivers. I just don't look at this team and say, this is a team that has the legs to go. And they were beaten pretty heavily last week by a very mediocre team. So, not mediocre, the worst team in the league still. Next up, we have Lunches for Wimps. Lunches for Wimps at number 4, the 4th worst team. Again, Greg Jennings, McFadden, that's it. He's still dealing with Hines Ward and Donald Driver, 2 old-ass receivers who were great in their day, but their day was about 20 years ago. Number 3, the King. He won last week. His record, still a crap team, but he did beat, the Peaceful Warriors last week handily. We got to give him something. He's got Manning and Blount and Tomlinson, but, he put Tomlinson in. He got lucky. Can he put Tomlinson in again this week? Get those same points? I don't think so against the Ravens. Hell no. Number 2, Boone Humper. I talked with the manager there, and on paper, this team should be pretty good, but unfortunately, Matt Schaub, Rashard Mendenhall, Frank Gore, and Joseph Adai, that's solid running backs, and receiver-wise, they're in trouble with Reggie Wayne, Eric Decker, and Jordy Nelson.
Eric who?
Eric Decker from the Denver Broncos. Antonio Brown from Pittsburgh, just a lot of second-rate receivers who could make a move, but this team has to be built to make a move later on the season. And number 1, Redonkulous. What do you say about this team? Just dealing with so many injuries and such a horrible draft. Cam Newton, you're going to get feast or famine. Arian Foster is coming back, but I don't think that's going to be enough to change the fact that he's still got McCluster and Mike Williams and David Nelson. I don't know. What do you think? Redonkulous is just prove it to me. Show me some points, and you can rise up the rankings.
Interesting. Bottom 5. We differ a bit, and I actually have my sheet this time.
Oh, dude!
Put out here.
Trixie, I'm gonna jump out and take a peek.
We've got starting in the number 5 position of our bottom 5. Our 5th worst team in the league. We're going to start with, and this was a debatable slot. The fire-spitting Jimmies are going to be slotted in that number 5, bottom 5 slot. We just think they're dealing with injuries. They've now lost Antonio Gates for however long. We can just leave this.
Yeah,
right here.
Let's do that.
They've lost Antonio Gates. Des Bryant's been banged up. I mean, this Hakeem Nicks is underachieving. Phillip Rivers is underachieving for the first time in fantasy history. That team is in poor shape right now. We put them in that 5 slot. Redonkulous, you're number 1, the worst team in the FLF for you. I've got them at the 4 slot. I think they're improving. They're very active. They made some key moves, and I think that there's enough there. Arian Foster coming back. They're going to be okay. They're not great. Lunches for Wimps, again, about the same slot they were last week. They did get a win, but we think the wide receiver depth there no depth, lack thereof, I should say. They've got one horse in the wide receiver. The rest are fill-ins. I don't see that team, unless they start making some serious moves. Maybe a trade is in order early year. They're going to need to keep things rolling if they're going to get anywhere near.
They might just need to spend a little bit of time on the computer and take a chance.
A little less time chasing the muff around. The King moves up a slot to number 2. They get out of the cellar for me. They did slam the Peaceful Warriors, but again, I want to see it 2 weeks in a row. I want to see LT put up those numbers. I want to see Nate Washington do it. Eli Manning had been garbage. I mean, these guys all rose to the occasion on one day. Let's see it happen again. And the worst team in the FLF is the Boone Humper. They've had a bad draft. They've made some questionable waiver moves. They're all unproven, basically. And anything that is proven is underachieving. Frank Gore, Reggie Wayne. I mean, these guys, are they past their prime?
I've talked to the manager of the Boone Humper.
Around? Regardless, they're not putting up numbers.
I talked to the manager of the Boone Humper recently, and he's very frustrated, but he has a certain steely determination and a past record of success. So you've got to feel that this guy knows what he's doing, and the Boone Humper is going to come back strong.
Well, why don't we move on to the top 5 of our power rankings?
You first.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. At number 5, I've got the Peaceful Warriors, and that's a 2-slot drop after a severe beating by the King. Again, I think a shocker special, but yet they didn't post the points. They've had some issues. This Reggie Bush and Ocho Cinco turned out not to be such a great draft thus far. They're holding on to them, and we'll see what happens. Number 4, I'm putting the Mofos up there. I think the Mofos have earned my respect at 3-0. They're grinders, which we saw last year out of a Peaceful Warrior team. They grind out wins. They know what it takes. They're atop the division in the Central with a key Central Division game this week. I think I got to give them love. I look at that running back core, and I just don't see it. I see one injury, and the Mofos go on a 4 or 5 game losing streak.
Yeah, just very teetering.
So the depth there and that running back core, I'm iffy. But they're 3-0. I put them in the 4 slot. Dr. Dick was my number 1 last week. I take a closer look at that team. His wide receivers are underachieving like you can't believe. Big name guys. Brandon Lloyd and Deshaun Jackson are giving him nothing. Absolutely.
Simpson's in the
He's adding convicts now to his roster. I like his quarterback. I like his running backs, but we'll see with that team.
And Matt Forte is just
they're at the 3 slot.
Stud.
The Rollers, I mean, you're number 1 last week. I've got them back up here to number 2 from
Where did you have them last week?
In number 4 slot.
Number 4?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, in the number 5 slot.
Wow.
I thought on paper, I had some questions, but they continue to roll, as he likes to put it. They continue to beat their opponents, and their guys are just continue to push along. The Rollers are my number 2, and the number 1 team is an obvious selection. I'm sure we're going to agree. Mason Keith Colby is destroying his competition. I remember a week or so ago he beat the Morning Wood by 7 points, but he scored 179 and his opponent scored 172. A real burn job. Every week he just either blows you out or just scoots by you, except for that first week where he lost to the Peaceful Warriors. That was a tough one.
Yeah.
But yeah, the hottest team by far. They've scored the most points. They have no injuries besides a tight end they've been adding and dropping. Beanie Wells, I guess, is something that's a little bit banged up, but he's got enough depth. He's done a great job. Mason Keith Colby.
Wow. Little variance going on here. Mind you that last week, Morning Wood was, the Peaceful Warriors was our 5th place team. The Fire Spitting Jimmies, 4th. Mason Keith Colby at 3. Dr. Dick at 2. And the Rollers at 1. This week we are going to start with the Fire Spitting Jimmies at number 5. I'm a fan of their team. I think that Philip Rivers and Ray Rice and Tim Hightower, the receivers, Hakeem Nicks, Nate Burleson, Des Bryant. It's a solid squad if it's injury-free, especially the running back and quarterbacks. Number 4, I have Dr. Dick. For the same reason he said, Matt